Oh hey, I make video again. So before this year, I basically knew Ray Bradbury as just the author of that one Bandit book, Fahrenheit 451. Little did I know that 9 months later he'd be one of my favorite authors. I would have read 3 of his books and on the journey to read the rest. So all that to say, I am a recent fan of Ray Bradbury, and this is a review of one of his books. So Dandelion Wine is technically the first in a series, the Greentown series, which is a trilogy of books that all take place in the fictional town of Greentown, Illinois, which is based on his hometown of Waukegan, Illinois. So what is Dandelion Wine? Well, apparently it's a wine that people make with the petals of dandelions. But for the purposes of this video, it is a semi-autobiographical book about growing up in an idealized small town in the Midwest of America. It's written through a series of little short vignettes or chapters that take place over one summer in 1928. The main character, you could say, is a 12-year-old boy named Douglas Spaulding. He is the main character that most of the events are framed from, though we do get POV chapters from many other people from in his neighborhood. So you'll get stories about lawn mowing, photographs, toys, games, war stories, all kinds of different events that happen in this small town. So the book was first published in 1957, though in his essay that is in the front of this book called Just This Side of Byzantium, Ray Bradbury says that he wrote many of these short tales over a course of months or maybe years, daily, as he conjured up different memories and ideas in his creative writing exercises. So like I said, it is a book that takes place in a small town in Illinois, and it takes place over one summer. So it is framed from the main character as one of his summers between school. So it kind of begins with him beginning the summer and ends on the dawn of the next school year and the next fall. And so it's contains a lot of themes about growing up, losing people, losing friends and family members that you care about, and overcoming the grief of losing them. It tells about the powers of memories, about the importance of living in the moment and not holding on to the past too dearly, but it also does delve into a lot of past stories and holding on to the idea that memories are kind of like a trip to the past. And as is usual with anything that Ray Bradbury ever wrote, it is a pure work of poetry. So what did I like about Dandelion Wine? Like I just mentioned, it is a very poetic book, and that's not an exaggeration. His prose work here is top notch. Everything is beautifully written, and it seamlessly pieces together viewpoints from, a 12-year-old boy to middle-aged women to elderly war veterans, all in one little book. It's also very relatable. Obviously the story takes place in 1928, but not a lot of people alive now were growing up back then, so you can't really relate to that too much. But I don't think you have to. I think if you ever grew up in a small town or even spent a good amount of time at someone's house in a small town when you were a kid, especially in the summertime, I think you can appreciate this, and it will conjure up some memories for you. And really, the time frame does not seem as ancient as you would think. If you had told me that this took place in the 50s or the 60s, I would have believed you, because he doesn't really mention a whole lot of dated materials. So I think most of the things that he talks about are fairly universal. I wouldn't say it's one of those stories that transcends time or anything, but it's not as outdated as you might think it would be. And it's also a very quick and easy read. The version I read was less than 300 pages. It's also a very short book, as in literally it's short. It's like kind of a square-shaped book. So it's not a whole lot of pages to get through. So it doesn't waste your time with a lot of unnecessary stuff to pad the page count or anything. It's very simple and to the point. So what did I not like, or what might other people not like about this book? Well, the story is, it's kind of told through separate short stories or chapters that are connected, similar to the Martian Chronicles, if you read that, but I think even more connected to each other than those are. So with that being said, there's not a whole lot of plot involved. It's very light on the story. Sure, there are things that happen throughout the book, and some of the events will maybe have an effect on one or two chapters, but mostly it's a lot of independent plot lines that come together. So because of that, the characters, they are fairly well developed, I think, but they're not as, you don't get a lot of time with them as you might in a regular story, so you may not bond with any of the characters all that well. I know some people may have a problem with this, as they need some kind of a story to keep turning the pages, and I usually do too, to be honest, but for this one I had no problem getting to this book very easily, very quickly, even without the overarching plot. Some of the characters and the dialogue can be a little exaggerated. I don't think they're dated or anything. It's just that some of the things that they say can be a little over the top. Not really in a satirical, over the top way, but kind of exaggerated, kind of hyper realistic or something like that. I think someone mentioned somewhere that this was kind of a magical realism story. So some of the elements of the characters can be traced to that kind of genre, I think. And then going along with the whole issue I mentioned before about not having a major storyline, there is not a lot of suspense involved. So if you're looking for a thriller, this isn't it. It's not Something Wicked This Way Comes, where it's a horror, and it's not the Martian Chronicles, where each page you're wondering if the Martians are going to give you a dinner or eat you for dinner. And it's not Fahrenheit 451, where the main character could get found out at any time in the book. So there's not a lot of thrills or suspense. Aside for one chapter, there is one in the middle that's very suspenseful and very well done, I might add. But aside from that, it's very light, very lighthearted, very simple story, a simple growing up story about childhood. So let's get into my final thoughts and recommendations. Well, obviously I mentioned before that I'm kind of a Ray Bradbury fanboy now, so I definitely recommend reading this if you have any interest at all in it. I very much enjoy reading Dandelion Wine. Like I said, if you have any experience with time spent in a small town, either in the US or in a different country, I think you will find a lot here to enjoy. If you're a fan of Ray Bradbury's writing style, and honestly, who wouldn't be, you'll definitely like this as well. He doesn't skip a beat. And if you like poetic prose in general, or just very nice, pleasant writing styles, you'll definitely be able to get into this if you haven't gotten a chance to read Bradbury yet. And if you like coming-of-age stories, you'll definitely find a theme here that you will enjoy. And if you're looking for just a quick, nice summer read, then you should be able to knock this off fairly quickly as well. Will this end up being my favorite Ray Bradbury story ever? I don't know, maybe. But for now, I did give it 5 stars out of 5 because it was just really nice, delightful read. I was coming off some other books that I wasn't quite in love with, so reading this was a nice vacation for whatever. I don't know what I was going with there. It's a nice, slow, delightful read. Really easy to read. Has some nice, memorable moments, and it's Ray Bradbury, so I mean, it's good. It's a classic. If you are interested in reading Ray Bradbury, this might be a good place to start. Just as long as you know beforehand that it's not the most action-packed story, and it's not a genre thriller like some of his other works are. So, anyways, that's all my phone's gonna let me record for today, though. So that's gonna be it for me. So go out and read Dandelion Wine if it does ya. And anyways, thank you for watching. And this is a